Thank you, Jasper. Appreciate everyone here for giving your most valuable times. I want to share with you, first of all, maybe a background just to connect some dots. Jasper said it correctly that I'm spearheading the South Africa-Israel Chamber of Commerce. That I do it on a voluntarily basis. And in fact, after COVID, the chamber received quite a hit for the social distancing and members that haven't saw each other for more than 2 years on the networking events. So we're kind of igniting the chamber again, and we're coming with all sorts of planning, which I will share with you today. And one of my, I think, primary focus nowadays is the South African Friends of Israel, which I started on the 7th of October, doing it on a private capacity and then growing it into the organization that it is today, which have an incredible impact on the cause, which is to engage with the greater society of South Africa outside of the Jewish community, but to connect mainly the Christian community to the Jewish community and Israel and South Africa. So we're focusing on 4 different segments of the market, which we started a year and a half ago. One is with faith, interfaith, and especially between Christian and Jews. We did several events of prayer and proclamations across the country, across the continent. We're taking pastors' delegations and other leaders from the Christian community leaders. We're focusing on, like Jasper said it before, if someone with us on the call earlier, on the political side. My grandfather always said to me that to be a community member, you need to interact with the people in power and to hold them accountable. So in this past year and a half, we took about 36 members of parliament in different tours to Israel and political parties, try to influence the false narrative that been indoctrinated over here in South Africa and unfortunately also been influencing the foreign policy of South Africa. So second is the politics and government. Third is tribal leaders. We're also taking tribal leaders from South Africa to Israel as a delegation. We're doing it strategically. I think the timing, as Jasper said, the timing must be divine and on date from God for us to be able to succeed in our efforts. The fourth is what we're doing over here, which I think correlate to 2 of the segment of the market, is business prominent people. And this is what I would like to share with you here today is what is it that that we can do together, I think, to change the status quo, keeping in mind that not only that we care through our faith and that we affirm Israel's sovereignty as a state, but also that we want to see South Africa prosper. And I think when you dive into the details and you listen to your spirit, do not fear. There is what we say that is on date by God. That if something is happened today, it happened for a reason. It doesn't happen just for no reason. And everything happened, not only happened for a reason, happened for the best. And not only happened for the best, it also happened to get us closer to God. So that's the 3 main fundamentals of faith that I work with on my daily life, especially in the efforts of interacting with so many individuals and dynamics outside of the Jewish community. And just on a personal note, I think that if, I found myself as Israeli living in South Africa on the 7th of October, and my commander in the IDF saying to me, you won't be able to join the reservists right now. We are drafting close to 150,000 people. You will have to wait a week or 2 for us to get back to you. I found myself here in South Africa for a reason. And I try to find for that reason why I'm here and what God called me to do. And no later than 8 days after the 7th of October, which I felt like a second Holocaust on my people, the same as my grandparents, which are still alive in Israel, experienced not long ago, just 77 years ago. And I saw the government of South Africa standing in front of the cameras with kafiyas and Palestinian flags, not only not condemning the Hamas atrocities that happened on the 7th of October, which was the massacre for Jews as closest to the Holocaust since the time of the Holocaust, but also taking a hostile, biased, discriminating approach against the Jews in Israel. And in that moment, I decided that if this is 8 days after 7th of October, Israel, the IDF even started to launch an offensive attack, with just building up the strategy and recruiting the reservists, and the government of South Africa taking such a stand, this is definitely something that is beyond what we know as individuals, and there is something that is shifting. And I think all of us here, I want to believe, are faithful people and believe that God create everything for a reason, and everything have a timing in history. We're living in a pivotal time, in biblical time, I believe today. And if South Africa was chosen to take Israel to the ICJ and chosen to be probably the hardest strongholding as a Christian country to take a stand with Israel, I believe that God wants us to transform that, same as He transformed apartheid to democracy. He wants to transform South Africa from perceiving to be the enemy of Israel, but to be a friend of Israel. And this is why I took over to lead and spearhead the South African Friends of Israel, alongside with the South Africa-Israel Chamber of Commerce. And I genuinely believe that there is a divine connection of Alpha and Omega. And if you're looking over here in South Africa, in so many ways, the frequency over here is almost like everything started over here, from the Khoisan to the Table Mountain. And a wise man said to me that the day that we're going to connect Alpha and Omega, which I believe we all want to see Messiah is coming back and coming from Mount Olive, coming back from Jerusalem, the rebuild of Jerusalem, that will be the days of where we're going to see the connection. So this is just my personal view. This is hi Antoinette, nice to see you, all the way from Israel. She was with us in Jerusalem just a month ago in one of our events. So I genuinely believe in my personal capacity, on behalf of the chamber, on behalf of the organization, speaking on behalf of Daniel Yakcobi, that this is my personal calling and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I thought it will be good to start with context, and you understand the person behind the screen, who he is and what is it that is on his heart and what is it that he is doing at the moment. And what I see we can do together, I will come to it probably in the next few minutes, try to connect some dots. So far, if there is any questions, I'm happy to take. You can feel free. This is a two-way flow. This is not a one-way flow. This is how I would like to feel amongst friends. That is a conversation. But if you want to keep questions for last, it's fine. I can continue. So speaking about what is it that we do. So I always believe as an entrepreneur, I grew up in a kibbutz community. My grandfather was one of the first pioneering to establish the kibbutz community in 1930s. And he always taught us that as a pioneer, as an entrepreneur, that you kickstart something, you need to have your three fundamentals, which is why you're doing what you're doing, what is it that you're going to do, and how you're going to do it. So I think once you have that three, almost you can articulate it yourself, and you can start drafting a plan and working towards that. And if it's ordained, if it's divine, and there is God's blessings into it, you will see the water coming up. You will see that there is a flow. And if you don't, move on and don't dwell on something that it's not divine. Move on and do to the next thing. So I'm very obedient in that sense, that I in my life had a privilege and opportunity to spearhead several initiatives and companies, from North America to South America and to Africa. And I believe that what we're doing over here, I can see that there is blessed from God, because not only what we're doing have a great flow, but what is it that we are doing is almost like we're putting our minds together, we're starting a project, and it's just taking off by itself, which is beautiful to experience. It's an incredible blessed feeling, which I would like to share with you here. So as the Chamber of Commerce, we have the sole purpose of advancing the link between South Africa and Israel. In a simple matter and form is that we are supporting our members of the Chamber, either from South Africa to go to Israel if they need to interact with companies, finding more customers, finding investors, governmental bodies, normally goes under academic institution that's supported by government, or all sorts of bodies like the Innovation Authority that's supported by the government, but filtering all the opportunities. As well as one of the fundamentals in Israel is the R&D centers, the research and development centers. So just to elaborate on Israel before we tapping into the South Africa market, which you guys probably know better than I am. But in Israel, because we're such a small country in size, and we have very limited water because we are depending on the rain, and we have very limited resources because we don't have oil, and we don't have, now that we found the gas, but it was only recent that we didn't have a source of energy. We needed to find ways as a country, as a society and community, to build the economy. So we find three fundamentals. One is that we are going to work the land. God give us the land, we're working the land, and we can grow not only the crops, but we can grow also methodology. So finding methods of which we can grow certain crops in different conditions, and always getting on the forefront of innovation, because Israel is 50% and its land is desert. So we're finding different ways and innovative ways to grow it in certain conditions. If it's desert conditions, if it is a control environment, as you know, the greenhouses, the drip irrigation that been so famous, that been exported to across the world from Israel. My family, for example, innovative in a way that they started pollinating through bees. So we have an incredible BioBee, it's called BioBee factory here in South Africa as well, where we are growing bees and we're selling bees, bombus bees, for pollination. So we don't need to do it manually, we're doing it through organic methods, as well as biofly, which you always find in insects that coming to the crops, and we're finding the good bugs to eat the bad bugs, so you need to spray less. So Israel focusing on innovation of agriculture is one of the most incredible research and development. When you're coming to Israel and you're touring yourself amongst the companies, you will find it really inspiring. The second is water. Israel in the last 20 years invested a large size of resources and focus and energy into how we can use different methods of water, not only providing portable drinkable water, but also for agriculture, because of the consumption of agriculture, without depending on the rain. I remember as a child, that we used to pray for rain, and when it was a dry season, I remember that we used to do all sorts of prayers together as a community to bring back more rain, to ask from God to really bring more rain. And so it's like one of my most incredible childhood memories. I lived in a kibbutz, 500 men coming together because it's a drought, and we're doing a special rain prayers, especially on Shabbat morning. It was really, really special. I remember that very clearly and very strongly. And Israel was invested in desalination plants, so we managed to be on the forefront of taking the seawater and desalinate it and bring it to millions of people in Israel. Israel is a very small size also in population. There is only about 10 million people, 2 million of them are Arabs. There is only about 7.5 million Jews. So you can see the diverse country as well in population. Today we have seawater that's providing for close to 8 million people. So it's 80% of the population. And we are using close to 90% by now, which is sewage water that's been cycled into agriculture for irrigation. So to put it this way, we are depending on the rain because it's a source of blessings, but we're not depending on the rain anymore for irrigation, for agriculture, or for drinkable water, which is incredible. It's amazing for itself. As a society, as a small society that managed to innovate such a short period of time. The third is the mindset. When I'm speaking about the mindset, is actually, it is cultivating the mind of the young entrepreneurs in Israel, starting from schools, growing it into a pre-academy when you're going to your service, your military service. And then when you're in the military service, it's a 1.5 to 2 years of training that the IDF is identifying the brilliant minds that can contribute the innovation, especially in cybersecurity. And I'm not going to go into details that we can have a separate meeting about it, or you can come with me to Israel to see for yourself. But the cyber, it is an incredible offensive and defensive method that we are almost securing the safety and security of our state borderless, so across borders globally all over the world. And from those minds that cultivating those innovative solutions, you can see that we are growing as well as integration for applications. This is the most fundamental and easy to explain. In every aspect of life, as we have our cell phones, and we're understanding that cell phones becoming an imperishable part of our being, as a use for many case studies, Israel was inventing in many ways integration platforms to integrate to each other and to talk to each other. From municipalities to governmental bodies to social innovation for different NGOs that providing different services to integrate to each other, for financial fintech, financial inclusion and financial innovative solutions, all sorts of insurance companies that bought into it, and the applications rolling out to food security, to agri-tech, to so many applications that it's incredible, because if you're looking at it in a simple form, it is data. It is to build many codes that you develop over time, integrated, talking to each other, and our AI are increasing. So we're living today in an unprecedented time. So AI is increasing in our awareness of the applications that we can use. And now the integration, that taking the data and talking to each other, now even have codes that can think for itself to a degree, which machine learning kicks in, and now the world is moving into mega computers. I won't go into it, but it is really mind-boggling when you are experiencing it and touching the surface of it, because it's almost like in Hebrew you say bina. Bina is wisdom. And in the Torah we're also learning that, we can't misplace the wisdom, because the wisdom comes from God. But in a way that today we are evolving, it is the closest that we're getting into Bina, that a supercomputer can think in nanoseconds for billions of trillions of options and calculations that we could need far greater time, centuries, to understand it and to learn it and, you know, to come into a conclusion. Today, we have those abilities, which is absolutely, in my way, crazy, if I can say, but it's also very inspiring. So in the physical universe, we need to harness the wisdom of the spiritual realm to turn it into good. Because in the Jewish faith, and I grew up as a child, that my family always taught me that a wise man, a knowledgeable man with no heart is a form of evil. And a person with the heart, but no wisdom and no knowledge, is weak. So we need the knowledge and we need the heart to be connected. That's why, just on a side note, that's why the Jews are praying every morning and laying tefillin. If some of you know that tefillin is one goes against the heart and one's against the mind, and over here where the core is of the wisdom and the knowledge are coming. So this is what I believe that we can, as they say in the Bible, I think in the Torah, there's be light to the nation. Be light to the nations means inspire the nations. Inspire the nation from your studies, inspire the nation from your faith, for your values. And apparently there is an incredible innovation that coming from Israel on those three fundamentals of agriculture, water, and cultivating the minds of entrepreneurs. And I think everyone over here, or some of you heard about the startup nations. So Israel as a startup nation, been called as a startup nation because the government, as the leaders of the people, understood early in the 20s that we need to build that, cultivating the minds, we need to build that ecosystem. So you have the governmental bodies interacting with private sector through innovation authority, through different bodies where they're channeling their funds to screen all these opportunities, that channeling the funds into research and development centers, that linked into academia, that linked into the IDF, and this is from the army, from academic institution, from research and development centers, from the innovation body that's been mandated to interact with all those bodies, that collecting the data and seeing where we can have places of improvement, we managed to bring about the startup nation, which is a new industry. Why I call it a new industry? Because if you look at it on a GDP, on venture capital funding, which funding early stage startups, Israel attracting last year was about $12 billion. In COVID, we did about $24 billion, double. It was really incredible thinking how billions of dollars been pouring into, because this is how you're cultivating the mind, and also the entrepreneurs find different ways of raising funds on different agreements. I don't know if you guys have heard of SAFE and Series A, Series B, Series seeding funding, and all sorts of methods that you can increase your share price all the way to listing. And you can see today that in the NASDAQ, you have more Israeli companies per capita than any other country in the world. And I think it's about the mindset, as I said, and it's also about the support that you're receiving from cultivating those minds from school into academic institution, to the military, which is it's mandatory to do in Israel, and so on. So as you can see, I'm Israeli, and I really love to sell and promote my country because it's really close to my heart and it's in my being. But coming back to South Africa, if we believe that everything happened for a reason, and everything happened for the best, and happened to get us closer to God, how come 80% of the country over here in South Africa, 80% are Christians, and I've been close to 300 churches in the past 18 months. So I sense the support and love when I go into the church and pray together and I hear the pastors preaching. I can sense the conviction. how come with a 3% minority of Muslims, the jihadic Islamic of extremism ideology capture the foreign policy and capture South Africa? And what it means for us? Are we going to do something about it? Do we have anything to do about it? So firstly, I believe yes. I believe that we have something to do about it, definitely. And I believe that with, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but my stats shows about 20 million people in South Africa are hungry. There is really a devastating situation. 8 million of them are kids. Just in the Eastern Cape recently, I received a call that a few hundred kids died, and they're asking us to give a disaster relief. So I managed to raise about $25,000 to support that community. It's very close to my heart also to make sure that nobody goes to sleep hungry if I can, which is, by the way, part of the Constitution of South Africa. I can read it to you. To provide every South African a basic nutrition, basic food, access to food. And unemployment rate is shooting up the roof. In Israel, we experienced unemployment rate in the 90s when we had close to 1 million immigration in one single year came to Israel, and we're experiencing that unemployment rate to 14%. We managed to reduce it in 30 years from 14%. Now it sits on just above 4%, which mainly, if you're looking at the calculation, is the ultra-Orthodox Haredim Jews in Israel. So it's not really taking if you're looking at it on the hard surface, that really been considered as an unemployment rate. But coming back to South Africa, if South Africa are facing so many challenges on so many fronts, and Israel have the applications and have the solutions for it, how can we together advance the link between Israel to South Africa to really benefit South Africa and every average South African? And how can we do it? So we as an organization, we're doing events. Jasper had the opportunity to participate in one of our events. We want to do much more. And we're also moving between the churches, and we are doing teachings, and we're taking tours to Israel. We specialize in tailor-made itinerary to the group. We're taking the size of groups about 7 in this just past year. Some of it been subsidized by us, some of it been funded by us. We spent close to $1.5 million by now on those activities. And we're focusing on networking and bringing people together, opportunities together, because we believe, as the Chamber of Commerce and also South African Friends of Israel, that the more connection we're going to have, the more simplest of energy we're going to build, we're able to change the status quo that we're experiencing in South Africa. And I'm coming back to South Africa, it's been captured by those evil forces because they are managed to corrupt the system. As you know, I don't need to teach you about your government and the current states of affairs over here, but through corrupted system and people that looking for self-enrichment, they're extracting the value, they're not adding value to their people, and they are allowing anyone who can engage with them and connect with them and transact with them in that corrupted mindset. And that's why we're experiencing such a terrifying state of devastation, I really think, in the grassroots level in South Africa. And I believe it triple, not only down, but it triple up all the way for people that have honorable businesses that are experiencing and suffering from all sorts of policies that have been implemented in South Africa in the past 30 years. So I think I explained why we're doing what we're doing, what is it we do, and how we're going to change the status quo is that we are connecting more businesses, more individuals that sharing a similar mindset and want to have a common future, sharing similar values, and want to have a future, a better future, a common future for South Africa and Israel, but with the singular thought of really advancing God's kingdom. So I hope that I managed to touch on the broader things of the organization, and also to explain who I am and to bring about more information, insightful information, bring it to light for you guys to have a tool to engage with us. So thank you for your time.